So now that we've talked about the concepts and basically each of the methods that are part of the future portion of the Completable Future API, let's take a look at how you could actually use these features in practice. And as has been our tradition for a while now, we're going to use this in the context of the big fraction class. And this will also give us a chance to not just only show how to use the basic features of Completable Future in a program, but it also demonstrate the limitations with doing so. So this is pretty much the same example we looked at before when we looked at future and how to program it. And what we're doing here is we're going to multiply big fractions with a completable future. And this, again, is also available in my EX8 example in my GitHub repository. So if you take a look at this, we got the code on the left-hand side. We've got the kind of the visualization of the code on the right-hand side. So the first thing we do is we make an empty or an incomplete future. It has no computation associated with it. It's just a placeholder to be completed explicitly down the road. So we make a new completable future instance. We then go ahead and create and start a background thread. And as you can see, the background thread is given a lambda runnable. So we give a runnable to it as a lambda expression. And we then start the computation to run that parameter, that lambda that we give, in a background thread. The actual lambda runnable, as you see here, will compute big fractions by big integers. And so what it's basically doing is it's creating two big fractions, which of course under the hood contain big integers for the numerator and denominator. And then we go ahead and we multiply one big fraction by another. And when that finishes, we then complete the completable future. So that basically says, here's the result. And at this point, anybody else who needs to get the value will be able to obtain it. Now you'll notice that I have this sort of ... shown in red towards the bottom of the screen. And what that's showing is that the lambda runnable that's occurring in the background in that thread that we started is running concurrently with any other computations I've omitted with the ellipsis ... So I didn't write them here for reasons of space on my slide, but in fact, there could be a bunch of other computations, and those would run concurrently to the ones that are running in the background. So we complete the future with the result, and that means that when the call to join is made, either if the join call gets made before complete's called, then join will block. If the join call gets made after complete is called, it'll get the result right away. In either case, when the result is completed, then join will be able to get it, and then we convert it into a mixed fraction and print it out. So you can read more about what mixed fractions are. It's just basically taking something and giving you a number followed by the remaining fraction. Now, this is all well and good, but of course, there's still some limitations with these basic features. Otherwise, there'd be no need to have all the other stuff we're going to talk about here with the advanced features. The main problem with the version of completable futures that we just went through, the basic features, is they're really not any better than futures. They're a little bit better because they have things like the join method that uses runtime exceptions instead of checked exceptions. They're a little bit better because they are going to allow you to complete the futures explicitly, etc. But they don't really get to the heart of the limitations with regular futures. So in particular, you can't chain them fluently using just these basic features. You can't trigger them reactively using just these basic features. You can't efficiently have a collection of completable futures using these basic features. So pretty much all the same problems we had with regular futures are still the problems with the basic parts of completable futures. Another problem we can see here is that the join call will block until the future completes. There's no timed version of join. And anytime you have blocking calls, you have problems potentially because that can underutilize the core and it may also increase the overhead. If you don't want to block, then you'll have to go and use the timed version of get, but as we saw before, that's also problematic. So timeouts are just not a good idea. Anytime you find yourself using timeouts for things like this, it's probably an indication that there's something wrong with your code and you need to rethink what you're doing. So if you want to find out more thoughts about why using timeouts with completable futures are a bad idea, take a look at the link at the bottom of the slide, which goes into this in more detail. So therefore, the whole point of this is really just to say we need to learn how to use the advanced features of completable future, which of course we're about to do. And this will also then tremendously help you with the programming assignment that you've got, because that will be taking advantage of all these advanced features that we're about to cover. So that's the end of the overview of the basic features. Quite frankly, other than join, you're not really going to be using any of these other features in the programs. I'm just giving you this information for completeness and to kind of provide a baseline in order to be able to compare and contrast the basic features with the more advanced stuff that we're about to talk about.